conversation. Okay.
What? I already said turn it on. I said be quiet. Hit mute. Hit mute. You ruined the whole show. I'm stressed out. I am stressed out. I need to know how to beat stress. What is shaking, y'all? Episode 122, Golden Mike Live. We were talking about during the pre-show about sound not coming out, and it happened. It already happened. I love it. I love it. It's your boy, Marc Cordon. I am on a new format. We're doing something new. After 122 episodes, we gotta keep it fresh, which is why today, we're not just talking about beating stress, because I'm totally stressed out right now. It's my first show on a new format. But our guest today, my friend, author, speaker, coach, awesome person in general, is a board-certified clinical psychologist, works with people basically who have burnt out or on the verge of burnout, and I've done that multiple times, and I may do that if I continue this damn show at the rate that I'm doing it. Associate professor of Bay Path University. I can't believe they let you teach there with that swear mouth that you have. My friend, Dr. Kristina Hallett. Dr. Hallett, how are you today?
Hey, Mark, I am delighted to be here. What a fabulous intro. You know, that seriously rocks. Way better than my standard, oh, yeah, she does this, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
and of course, I just have to say that my phone was on mute. It is off. It is on mute. Now we can't see it at all. Because, oh, well, I'm like, not going to do this. Like, seriously, what is with technology?
Technology, read between the lines. Read between the lines. You got. Well, the thing is you're laughing it off, and I don't think anything can stress you out. I mean, you've been through a PhD program, and I'm talking about a PhD in, like, clinical psychology, where you're, like, reading the DSM, and you're like, fuck, do I have, like, magical thinking? Oh, fuck, did you do that when you had
this. And you know what? Everyone in my family has that.
Exactly.
Oh, you want to date me? Excuse me. Look at this. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta love the DSM. Let's talk about this in a little bit, but you're about to go on stage in New York City, and I asked you what you're gonna talk about, and you're like, it depends on what the audience that comes up with. I'm like, what the like, do you love stress? Like, why do you do this to yourself? You're gonna decrease years in your life doing this.
Not at all. That's exactly why we're talking about this. Because stress has gotten a bad rap. And so there's a whole other way to look at this. Right?
Let's go there. And I do want to talk about that, because this is a prop. That's why I went and got it in the pre-show, right? But like, even if you go to your newsstands right now, it's all about beating stress. It's all about kicking stress in the ass. It's all about the sources of stress, the anatomy of stress, the science of stress, conquering stress, like everything, how to cope. Everything has to do with kicking stress in its nuts, and so like that stresses me out thinking about the fight that I have to have with stress. Now, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Marc Cordon. I'm a stressed out positive psychology coach, founder of the Make Money Coaching Program. I'm so happy to be the chief disruptive officer in a program called the Joy Revolution. But really what I love doing is the positive psychology work on a daily basis, which is this. It's so simple. Hallett knows all the empirical data, but we don't. We get to just do this. I get to ask you and myself today, how happy are you feeling? What is since I'm speaking to a doctor, a board-certified clinical psychologist, what is your positive affect today? And then the second question I ask is, how much are you living in meaning and purpose? So, Kristina, to just start this off, how happy are you today, and how much are you living in your meaning and purpose?
Yeah, so I'm about 96% happy on a general basis.
I love it.
I am.
And
I am.
And what about the meaning and purpose?
Well, then let me just say the 4% is only because I have like a little chest cold, like otherwise I'd be like, whoa, yeah. Right.
Right on.
But I love so this moment I'm at like 99.95%, because I'm loving having this conversation and I'm not really paying attention to that little inflammation of the chest thing that's going on.
Now, for those of you, it's a new format, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to see you, but do it, because we want to know. Those of you who are living life in full meaning and purpose, you're having laughs with us, you're having a good time, you're happy today. Put your hand up and do this, Hallett. Make your heart beat.
Oh,
hit
yeah.
that heart icon. Hit the heart button. Let us know that you're alive. I see it. Jorge in Puerto Rico, I see you, brother. Woo! I see you guys hitting it. Oh, someone hit the angry button. Someone hit the angry button. Someone hit the... So we're going to work on your stress. We're going to work on your stress, whoever hit that angry button.
That is too funny. I wish I could see that. Sorry, guys. But, Marc will just translate it for me.
I know. Well, now, here's the other thing. A lot of people think that positive psychology, including the clinical positive psychologists, will think that it's sort of this fluffy... You're happy 24/7. It's shits and giggles, Taco Tuesday every day, Skittles raining from the sky, and Tal Ben-Shahar, who's one of the coolest positive psychologists out there, says this, and I love it. If you only think about being happy 24/7, you're one of two things. Number one, you're dead, or number two, you're a sociopath. You're an absolute sociopath. Positive psych is not about being happy 24/7. It really is about the ups and the downs and the all-arounds of life. And if you can, I wouldn't say cope with that, but if you can embrace that, if you can effectively navigate through those emotions, then that's a certain form of joy. That's what we like looking at in terms of positive psychology. Now, for those of you who hit the angry button, for those of you who did not hit the heart button, and are just like, yo, Hallett, you know what? Last year, I was happy as a clam, if clams are happy. I was happy as a clam. But you know what? Something's off. I'm not happy. Or I was living in my meaning and purpose in a job that I loved for 30 years, but for some reason I'm falling out of it. I'm falling out of a relationship. Things are weird. That is part of the roller coaster of life. This is part of your hero's journey, people. Just give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're living life. Let us know that you're making it through. Just sit back, relax. Let us entertain you. Let some of this stuff wash over. And if it hits, it hits. If not, just laugh with us. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button. I'm checking to see the thumbs up button. Yes, it's happening. It's working. The thumbs up is working right now. Now, here's the last thing. Oh, it's coming. They're hitting hearts, too. I love it. They're laughing. They're hitting the hearts. I'm loving it. I'm loving the new format. I do not miss you at all, Be Live. Here's the other thing. And I'd like to see if you refute me on this. One of the biggest things that they've found in terms of success in life, and I am using air quotes. I know I won't be able to use this on stage when I speak in New York.
Don't do that. No air quotes.
I just got called out by the professor on air quotes. But one of the biggest things when it comes to success in life, and this is living a fulfilled life, is that whether you're a 1 on the scale of happy, or a 10, a 97%, or a 1% right now, if you believe that today is going to be even better than yesterday, no matter where you're at, that's a form of optimism and hope. And that has been found to be one of the biggest generators to help people make it through both the good times and the bad times. So if you are hopeful, there is another icon down there. You guys have been a very good awake group with us today. I want you to hit this other icon. Hallett, I want you to make the face. It is called the wow face. I want you to hit that wow face, everybody. Exactly. I love it. Wow faces. I'm watching. I'm not going to proceed with the show. I'm holding the show hostage till I see some wow faces. Wow faces. Boom. Done. So we got through all of that stuff. We will be talking about stress, but Hallett, I do want to know this. I want to know what your story is. How did you get to the point where you are looking at burnout, where you are looking at all of these sort of things that not even the mainstream are looking at right now? How did you get to that point?
You know, it's sort of an interesting question because I don't know that I actually have one consistent story, right? Mm-hmm. What I can tell you is that I grew up as someone who loves to learn and was a high achiever. No question. Not quite a perfectionist, but definitely somebody who gave themselves 10 tons of crap on the inside. So doing a lot on the outside, feeling like poop on the inside, right? Big self-critical. And it took me lots of years of helping other people. So I get lots of meaning and purpose from helping other people. Yay. But what's going further and further down my own internal hole, because while there were some things that I could see that I did well, and I could say I'm good at my job, I'm good at this, I could identify things that worked for me and that I was good at, but sort of my worth as a person, I wasn't so sure about that. And so for me, the story really comes in learning to, book number 1, be my own best friend. Mm-hmm. Literally, right? So the first book, and that's partly how we met, my first book is Own Best Friend, 8 Steps to a Life of Purpose, Passion, and Ease. And it came after I had gotten to that point of really saying, what I need to do is start treating myself with compassion, with acceptance, with care. Like I need to not be unkind to myself because, I was definitely if I tripped going into a building, I'm like, oh, you moron.
Yep.
like right away.
Yep.
Now, I don't do that to other people. I'm pretty kind to other people. Someone else trips, I say, are you okay? I'm not like, you moron, what'd you trip for? And so it had gotten so frequent that I wasn't even noticing it. And so I got to this point of it literally, I guess this is the best way to describe it. And there's several different sort of direction choice points. But overall, what I would say is things are really great on the outside. Things are not feeling good on the inside. What is that about? And how do I figure that out? And overall, I would have been a person who generally, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get super stressed. Or actually, long ago, I made a rule, because I think it's really boring to be upset. I mean, I have my feelings. Things get to me, right? I'll get irritated. I'll get annoyed. I'll get sad. I've had my heart broken. But I can only stay in that place of emotion for a certain amount of time before I'm like, ugh, this sucks. I don't want to feel this way. And that's a moment where I figured out early on, I have a choice about how I see things. What's the perspective and the perception that I'm having? And so that was one of my really sort of core beliefs. And it is connected to one of my core values, which is I really believe in fully being who I am, feeling all of my feelings, but also making the choice to continue moving forward. So I truly believe that, things can be different in my life. This is such a minor example, but I live on the East Coast. So I'm in Connecticut. We have, all 4 seasons. That means that frankly, we get a lot of weather that I don't like a lot of rain, gray days. Ugh, don't like the gray days. Don't like the. So it would rain and I'd be like, ugh, look, it's raining again. That's miserable. I'm never in a good mood when it rains. Till I realized, what does that have to do with anything? It's raining.
Yep.
So what? It's raining. It's not raining. I mean, it's easier to be happy when it's sunny, but you're not happy every single time it's sunny. Sometimes crap happens. And so you're not happy even though it's sunny. So then I realized, okay, if it works for the sunny part, hold on. I'm going to try not to kill you guys with that cough. Sorry.
She's already hitting that vodka today, everybody.
What I tell you. Woo! Yeah. So if it works when you're sunny, it can work when it's raining.
Raining, yeah.
So if it's raining out, I can say, this is a good thing. Actually, people used to say it's good because the ground needs it. I'm like, ugh, I don't care. I don't like it. And I was like, all right, okay, let's just tell the truth here. Like, who really
fuck the ground?
Right, so what? But instead, what I was able to say is, what about this? What about today? Can I choose to see as a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
What about today is going the way I want it to? What can I do actively? And so that's the kind of thing that I would do.
Take a sip of your water, and I'm gonna, because you have me thinking about probably one of the coolest cats of all time, Viktor Frankl, who talked about that when he was writing a book in a concentration camp, right? But what I really love about it is that he breaks life down into inputs and outputs, right? And so many of us think that we'll get an input and then we have to put out a certain output to it. For example, it's sunny today. Output equals happy. Oh, it's rainy today. I have no choice or agency. I must be an asshole to everybody because it's rainy. I must be in a bad mood. And he goes, no, that's absolutely wrong. I can choose based on the input to then analyze, well, what do I want to do with this input with my output? And so we do have a choice. And to me, that's a very empowering thing. And like we talked about in the beginning, we have other emotions for a purpose. We have other emotions for a purpose. Just like stress is there for a purpose.
Yes.
So given all of that, these companies are making shit tons of money off of needing to beat stress, living without stress. You say something very different.
I do. So number one, here's the bottom line, and this is the truth. Nobody can debate this. They can claim what they want, but here it is. Everybody ready? If you have no stress, you're dead.
Oh!
Dead. Flatlined. You cannot live. You are a human being. You literally cannot live and not have stress. You cannot get rid of stress altogether. It doesn't work. Just by the fact that there's weather. There's traffic jams. Like you get a cold. There is stress. So that's part of it, is this whole idea of we need to beat stress, we need to get rid of stress, blah, 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 blah. Like we are missing the point. That's not going to happen because you can't live without stress.
So
stress
what do you define as stress?
Right. So stress is really just your body's response to changes that create demands on it. That's it.
Then essentially, when you're working with that definition, the only way to beat stress is to basically live in a vacuum chamber.
Right. And that would be stressful because then you wouldn't have interpersonal connection.
Yeah.
So you still couldn't do it. Because we know we need interpersonal connection to feel good.
So
and it's part of our meaning and purpose.
You'd have to be dead in a vacuum chamber.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't matter if you're coming from a place of psychology. If you're looking at organizational development, they call it organizational press. That's culture. That's a type of stress. If you're looking at ecology and the way that sort of one part of nature will seemingly dominate another and then grow, like for example the fires in California, and then fertile soil coming from that. All of that is stress. It's a changing environment. And what you're saying is that we are just navigating through a changing environment. That's what stress is.
That's what it means to be alive. And so there's a really important piece about this.
Okay.
Right? We have looked at stress as bad. And it's not just that magazine. If you could see my bookshelf, I have two different bookcases in this particular office. And they're
Nerd alert!
Total nerd. Of course I am. And I'm way cool like that. Absolutely. Like I am the coolest nerd you would ever have the privilege of being.
You're pretty damn cool, yeah.
That's so true. So, because I am the original badass.
You are the original badass.
Yes. So here's the thing. There is so much research that says that negative, I'm using air quotes now. Look what you've done to me. No air quotes. Boom. Negative stress, or when we view stress as negative, has an impact on our body.
Okay.
And that's why I'm throwing in when we view stress as negative. So theoretically, you could get a promotion, you could go on vacation, you could get married. Those are all good events, theoretically, that create stress. But presumably, they're more positive stress. Okay? So there's a couple different ways of thinking about this. One of the ways that we think about positive stress, and then I'm going to go beyond this, but positive stress is that when you've got something that's a challenging task, but that you have the sense you're capable of managing it. So you're going to put it, like a great example is you go to do like a tough strength workout, right? Mm-hmm. So you're at the gym and like you're doing a couple more reps. You're like, I can't do the last one. And you do, and you're like, that is positive stress. That event does not have the impact on your body that, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm freaking out. That freaking out has an effect on your body.
Yeah.
The workout does not have the same negative effect. So that's one difference in types of stress.
But it is stress. It is stress is what you're saying. Because if you think about it, what is a workout except you're tearing muscle?
Right.
You're tearing muscle. You know?
Right.
And so that I could see that being as sort of a positive thing. But we don't call that stress. We only think of the distress as stress.
Now,
right?
I want to take this a step further.
Okay.
And I want to say, so we've just said there's these positive stresses or stressors, and we're sort of saying there's the negative or the distress. And now I want to say that when we use the latest research from mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck, Dr. Kelly McGonigal, right? Dr. Leah Crum, and I'm going to give a specific example for your listeners. But when we use all of the newest research, what we actually can see is that we can alter stress from having a negative thing, the thing that we put in that bucket that we called negative stress, we can also then impact our bodies through our mindset, so that our body is not experiencing those negative effects, even though it's something that comes from that more difficult negative bucket that we're talking about. And this is what I mean when I say harnessing the positive power of stress. So there's positive stress things. I got a promotion. Woo! You know, like we'll just agree that's a positive stretch. Then there's the whatever it is. You know, I've got a huge deadline and I'm afraid I'm not going to get stuff done, or I'm going on stage and I'm nervous about talking in front of 1 million people, right? That's what we've thought about as negative stress. What I'm about to say is there is a way that we can take the negative stress and think about it differently and work with it differently so that our body doesn't suffer the effects of negative stress and instead actually does even better. And it relies on this key research.
Oh, look at the dramatic pause.
I know. Here it is.
Here it comes.
So, yes, and actually you can find this on a TED Talk. So Dr. Kelly McGonigal, health psychologist at Stanford, fabulous TED Talk. I think it was 2015. She breaks it down like this. She basically came on stage and said, "Hey, guess what? I have been telling everybody that stress kills you for 10 years, and I was wrong." Fabulous. And so instead, she says that we can look at what does stress mean? So, and where are the benefits of stress? Still, we're talking the negative situation. When you're under stress, you have greater focus. Now, often we think about this differently. We say, oh, I'm so stressed I can't think. The example I always give is I have a tough day at work. I come home. My husband says, what do you want to do for dinner? And I'm like, why are you asking me? I'm so stressed out. I can't think. I can't even make a decision. Okay, I don't do it quite that dramatically, but you're getting the idea, right? So
knock your
it's not-
bookshelves over.
Exactly. Start throwing crap. Okay. It's not that I can't focus. It's that my focus is laser sharp on the area, the concept, the issue that's the stressor. So I have laser focus. So everything else just sort of doesn't matter. What I want for dinner, who cares? Is it raining?
Yep.
Is it sunny? None of that matters. So I have increased focus and concentration on the stressor. I also, now this is a slightly different way of thinking about it, but I have increased energy. Of course I do. Stress means I've got adrenaline and cortisol and all that stuff rolling around in my body. I've got more energy to give to the stressor. So I have better focus and concentration. I have better stress. And here's the third thing that Dr. McGonigal talks about, which is it's telling me that the stressor is something of meaning to me. It has meaning. Because if it didn't have meaning, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, meh, whatever, right?
Yeah,
like the
that is so
fact
true.
that it's stressing you means that it matters.
Yep.
And so that's the way to then use what we were just talking about how do you conceptualize this? Like, this matters. Okay, yeah, this is important to me. Or, oh, no, it isn't. In which case, then it's not so stressful, right? So it positions you differently with the whole thing.
Yeah, and we both have worked in academia, and I even look at the way that students were treated, the ones who were called slackers and procrastinators, but still got things done and got them done really well. And how, if you just look at it from the standpoint of what McGonigal is talking about, it's meaningful for them to be in college, to finish this paper, to get this grade, to do well. They're provided with hyper focus, and with that boost of energy to get them through, right? So it's almost like they're tapping into something evolutionary there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we kind of shit on it. We're like, oh, you slackers, but they're kind of tapping into something that makes that would make sense, especially if they're producing the grade, right? Now, if it turns into something where it's like the work hard, play hard, where they, it was turning into like abuse of whatchamacallit, they were giving ADHD pills, or I don't know if they're still doing that, but those sort of things, nah, that's not what we're talking about. I think just the basic concept of just, yes, now that I'm feeling this press that something is important and I've got to get it done. I can't think of watching Netflix right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to take care of business. That makes sense.
That's the truth of how procrastination actually works. Like the people who say, I need to procrastinate, but I'll get it done. That's literally what they're doing. They're creating a stressed situation to increase their focus, increase their energy, and because it matters, because it didn't matter a week ahead of time. I mean, it's not necessarily procrastination. I'm not saying that that's the best strategy to use across the board in your life. But
I am saying that procrastination is the best strategy in your life. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
But sometimes it's fine because how many times this is totally true for me, where I need to get something done and I have a sense about how much time it will take me, but I wait until there's a deadline and there's sort of a crunch, and then I just get it done because typically we spend the amount of time that we have. So that's one of the things that we can do. And in fact, one of the things that I do when I'm working with people on high performance coaching, I'm sure it's what you do. It's this whole idea of how do you time block? How do you plan? And be all in on whatever you're all in on. So if you're saying, I don't want to do it tonight, like when we were writing books, I don't want to do it tonight. I'm like, fine, then take the night off and have a good time. Do not sit there and be like, oh, I should be writing. I suck. Oh, why aren't I doing this? Oh, if you're going to not do it, enjoy not doing it. And then when you're going to do it, do it. Do it for real.
Absolutely. I think that's I think that's a way of suffering through life, right? That we always need to be in stress mode, doing shit that we don't want to do. And then when we finally get to a vacation, all we can think about is the stress that we should be in. It's almost like we feel guilty for not having that negative stress, You know, it's really interesting. You also remind me of this, what you're talking about, the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote about flow.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So the whole idea.
I can't stump her, people.
Right.
That's
flow is when you're really in the moment, right? That's when, and the biggest piece of flow is that you lose a sense of self-consciousness. You are so engaged. So time just zips by. It could be reading a book. It could be playing a sports game. It could be cooking. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be doing, for me, sometimes it's like this kind of podcast or doing a therapy session or teaching a class. And my students say that all the time. They're like, oh my God, this was 3 hours? I'm like, yeah, who knew? And I still have a lot more to say, right? So when you're in flow, it's something that matters, that you're fully engaged in, that time passes, and that so you're all in, right? You're not trying to create your grocery list, right? In a pause, you're in it. But the biggest piece is, for me, you don't have that sense of self-consciousness. And therefore, you're not getting into negative internal self-talk.
Absolutely. And, I think to add to that, one of the biggest things that I loved about the research on flow is that it's not setting the bar at your skill level. It's setting the bar just above your skill level. That's stress again. It's stress to have to reach for something. And that's almost where we get into that flow. We get just enough of that stress so that I don't know who called it. Maybe it was McGonagall who calls it eustress, right? Good stress, instead of just stress as this always negative concept, but we create this good stress for ourselves, and there's just enough of that pressure to just boom, perform lights out, and so flow.
We don't want to get rid of that. If we got rid of all of our internal stress response, we wouldn't have the energy, we wouldn't have the focus and concentration, right? And things wouldn't matter. Like, we would not be as productive, and we wouldn't be as on point. We couldn't have that kind of peak performance if we didn't have stress. But it's really about how you're using it. So here's this other, this to me, now I'm going to share this is like super trigger nerd alert right here. Okay. This is going to be research, and it is research that blew my mind. I was listening to it on an audiobook, and then I went out and bought the real book so I could get the citation so I could go look it up, because this blew my mind. Dr. Aaliyah Crum also works at Stanford. She was doing work on stress and how we view stress. And so there's all sorts of stuff you could do in the lab to induce stress. So she had a particular measure that significantly induced stress. She had 2 groups. So her first group, her control group, what she did was she measured their salivary cortisol and DHEA. Right? This matters. So then she put them through stress, and she measured their cortisol and DHEA again. So cortisol, if it goes up, it means you're under stress. That's the stress response. Doesn't matter, good or bad, that's what happens. You're under stress. So control group, cortisol went up, just like it should. Now DHEA, there's this whole thing between cortisol and DHEA that has to do with sort of protecting your heart. It's a ratio. And when we say that stress is bad for our heart, it's because cortisol goes up and DHEA stays the same. And then basically the cortisol can impact the heart. But if the ratio shifts, it wouldn't. Okay? So control group, cortisol went up, they were stressed, DHEA stayed the same. Duh, that's exactly what we'd expect. Nothing shocking. And this was the intervention. She said to them before she put them through stress, oh my God, stress is bad for you, it'll hurt you, blah, blah, blah. This typical stuff we always say. Experimental group. She says to them the McGonagall version of the positive power of stress, and it's the mindset work. This is stress means it's something important, you have increased focus and concentration, and you have increased energy. Then she measures their cortisol and DHEA, same as a control group, puts them through the stressor. Cortisol in the experimental group goes up, but DHEA goes up. They didn't do anything except think differently about stress. But in thinking about stress as not harmful, as in fact a positive, then their brain shot out more DHEA so that their heart did not get the negative impacts of stress.
So the way that you perceive stress can absolutely change the chemical balances in your body.
Yes. That's why this is such a big deal.
I've got nerd alert flashing on the screen right now. Nerd alert. But it's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Right? Think about it. Like that is something that people can get. There's other experiments, but that's just one. And to me, it's so clear because it's stuff that was measured. Like you can't be like, a lot of times we'll look at mindset research and we'll be like, yeah, whatever. Sure, it doesn't work. It's easy to blow it off. But that's why I got so excited about this, because this is sort of like numbers. It's things that you can measure. And that's the kind of evidence that you can show people that they go, oh, like there isn't another explanation for it, which opens their mind to potentially understanding that, in fact, the power's here. It's the power of perception. The power of perception is what lets us harness the positive power of stress.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the power of perception, because I see that as being a big thing. First of all, though, we got Donna Ray tuning in. We see you, Donna Ray. Or I see you. I don't know if you can see it, but okay. It's a great show. Yes, Donna Ray, it's great to see you. Jorge in Puerto Rico, it's good to see you. So he said, wake up, Mark. Okay, I'm awake now, okay? It's good to see you. Love you, brother. Alexis, so much joy on this screen right now. So much joy hearing you interact with us. Carrie, it's good to see you. Giving some love. Carrie Bentley, it's good to see you. I want to know what you guys are thinking of this. What is your reaction to this when, simply put, the way that you think about perceiving stress changes your actual body chemistry on it? Let us know. But while we do that, Kristina, how can we actually, okay, now there's empirical data, but still, I'm snapping back to the 40 years that I've been taught this way. How do we start actually changing that? Because you talked about Carol Dweck. It is one thing to learn about growth and fixed mindset. It's another thing to actually live that. So how can we actually live that now? How do we harness that power of stress?
So there's a whole bunch of different things, but I'll give you a couple. Number one, understand it's not immediate. Like, hello, it took you forever to develop how you currently think. Give yourself a break and understand it's going to take you some repetition. You're literally building a new neural pathway. I use the example for neural pathways about, it's like you want to create a superhighway. You've already got a superhighway over here. Now you've got a meadow, and you want a superhighway to cross the meadow. You got to walk across it. You got to tamp down the grass. You got to put down gravel. You got to put down asphalt, right? And you've got to resource this while you're not using that.
Yes.
Then this becomes a superhighway. So be realistic in understanding you're going to have to repeat it, and you're going to have to be doing something different than what you've been doing before. So new way of looking at things, you're going to have to notice every time you're going down the old path and go, oops, not that highway. I want this highway. And understand that we all, because we have these strong pathways in our head, when we're distracted or when we're under more stress, our automatic default is to go back to the way we knew. Anybody who has ever, for example, had to pick up their child from daycare, and that's what they do every single day, and then one day they have to pick up their child somewhere else, and they start heading to daycare, and they're like, wait, where am I going, right? It's happened to all of us. Or you work in one place, and now you work someplace else, and one morning you're stressed, and then suddenly you're driving to your old work, and you're like, it's 25 miles the other way. It happens to all of us. Those are the pathways, the old pathways, they don't go away.
Yeah.
But it's where are we putting our resources? So we're going to create new pathways by noticing and literally changing it. how do we do that? One of the most effective, this always sounds hysterical to me and to everyone else because Mark, and I know that one of the most effective techniques we can use is breathing. And every time I say that to someone, people are like, ugh, seriously? Breathing doesn't work for me. And I think, and yet you're alive. Breathing clearly works for you. Right? Okay. There are a ton of fabulous apps that can help you with breathing. If you have an Apple Watch, you can use that. I will tell your listeners the number one app that I like for breathing, and it's called Breathe to Relax, and it's the number 2. So it's Breathe to Relax. And this is one of a whole suite of apps that was actually developed for the military, but they're totally free, totally available and appropriate for civilians. And the reason I love this particular app is you can set how long the inhale and the exhale is. You can set the background, like I think I have flowers on mine. You can set the volume of and there's a voice that guides you. It says inhale and exhale. But the part I love the best, there's a little tube and it fills up while you inhale and then it empties while you exhale. So the thing is, we know that the more something's multi-sensory, the bigger an impact it has, the stronger it's resourcing that new neural pathway. So I love that because you can see it, you can watch it move, you can sort of get your mirror neurons going like, okay, I'm going to follow this pattern. You can hear it, like it works really well. So so that's Breathe to Relax. The other thing you can do, and I teach this to people all the time, but it's 4-square breathing or square breathing, or there's a lot of names for it, box breathing. And this is the number one tool to reduce anxiety, right? Everything that goes on in your head, like stress, is all about your amygdala, your limbic system being activated. So you want to chill it out, breathe. You can argue that all you want. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Like I have been teaching full-day workshops on this. I've done classes, talks, you name it. People are always like, it doesn't work. I'm like, but it does. There's no way to argue this if you're actually fully breathing. But most people, when they are already in a state of stress or activation, start breathing shallowly. They're breathing from their chest. And so they're like, and okay, right, that just stresses you more. So it's got to be a deep belly breath. I recommend inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4. That's the box. In, hold, out, hold. Right? It's 4 because just about anyone can do 4. And if you do it faster than that, you're like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like you're going to just hype yourself up. What you're trying to do is get your limbic system to chill. So that works. And you can make it multisensory because you can draw the little box that you're doing on your hand or a desk. Right? It's super cool. Yeah. College students, grad students, this is something I give them for test anxiety because just a couple rounds of that square and using their finger on the desk, they're not cheating, but they're chilling out. And when they're chilling out, then they can think, they have that choice we talked about to think differently.
Yeah, and again, just to kind of back you up, for those of you who are, there's like a huge amount of nerds up in here today. I see you, Paula. I see you, Melanie Klein. Big nerd alert in here today. The work of Herb Benson in Harvard University on this, on the box breathing, it basically is the antithesis of the fight or flight response. It is a wellness response, and it is a way of just saying, look, we're not in danger, like our body is telling us right now. Our alien, or not alien, our reptile itself is still saying something is trying to attack us when really there's nothing. Let's breathe. Let's calm down. Let's get the blood back in, and let's get out of fight or flight mode. It's amazing. It's amazing, and it's something that I work on a regular basis. You forget about it. This
is literally that's the breath that the military teaches snipers, right? That's how you ground and do that, right? And that this is not a comment about promoting violence or anything else. It's saying, let's be realistic when we look at what can we do to help ourselves get calm. There's crap going on because it's going to happen. If you're alive, crap is going to happen. So instead, how do you cope, manage, get to where you want to be, right? You're not going to stop the crap.
Yeah.
But this is what we have control over. So there's another app I also want to tell you about. And actually, this is phenomenal. I really love this. And I actually just interviewed the CEO of this app on my podcast. And so it's an episode that's going to be coming out soon. And this app is called Think Up. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Fantastic. So it's won awards. I think 2018 was the award for like best mindfulness app, maybe, and 2017, and then 2018 best health app. Like, it's phenomenal. Think Up, right? It's one word. Mm-hmm. And this is there's a free version and a paid version, but I'm always telling people about strategies that are free, easy to use, and take less than a couple minutes to implement. Because, like I said, you have to repeat them. So they've got to be quick things that you can do. So on Think Up, what you can do is record your own voice, free version, 4 affirmations in your own voice. And then it sets it to music and it plays it. Takes less than a minute. Right? So the research says that not only when we hear something, but when we hear our own voice saying something that we want to be, our brain responds stronger. It helps create that pathway faster and more resourced. Now, there is one tip. I'm only going to give you one tip because everybody's going to have to go to my podcast to get the rest of the tips from the CEO. Just saying. But the one tip.
Savvy businesswoman right here.
The awesome podcast. Yep. Okay. But the one tip that I learned when I interviewed the CEO was you want to record the affirmations when you're feeling confident and positive. So you don't want to record them when you're feeling crappy because your brain will hook into that. Right? And so we think about put this together with everything else we know. If I'm pretending that I feel good, but I don't, and I say, oh, and every day I embrace change and feel good about who I am. I know that. Like, your brain is not stupid. Right? Yeah. From that perspective, as in, if you don't really feel something like that, it's going to be like, meh, that's not true. That's sort of the whole thing about The Secret and the law of attraction, right? It's that whole idea. If you got to, the only way that works is if you're actually believing it. Yep. But if you're faking it, so it's a little different than fake it till you make it. You've got to believe enough, and then you can fake some of it, right? You don't have to be all the way there, but you got to have enough of a foundation to do it.
Yeah, it is. You're calling me out on my own show. The reason why I have us do the wow face in the beginning is because I'm reframing the way, or I want to reframe the way that people think about hope, because a lot of people think hope is like just fucking make a wish. Right? There's actual strategy in optimism, but you have to have a certain belief behind it. And you're saying the same thing, is that you don't want to be wishing that you're something and then record it, and then you have all this fancy music. You bought the app of the year, and you're like, I don't understand why this isn't working. Like, I'm totally the most number one person in the world, right? Like, you don't believe it.
Right.
It's got to be something. Okay, so it's got to be something that that you have a kernel of belief in. Tell us another thing that you about that. No, I'm just kidding. Go to the Be Awesome podcast. Yeah.
I am going to tell you an example that I used in that conversation, but it's an example I use a lot, and I think it helps people understand this. So think about it. If you're really angry, right? You're super frustrated, you're agitated, you're in a crappy mood, and you get in the car and you turn on the radio, and suddenly, I'm so happy comes on. What do you want to do to that radio? Be honest.
You want to smash the fucking radio. You want to punch the radio.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Okay. So that's one example. The other example is you had a breakup. You get in the car. You turn on the radio. Number one, every damn song is like some horrible love song. You're like, right. Breathe anymore. You're sobbing. And then that happy song comes on. Again, what do you want to do? Bam. Or drive into a tree or something. Like, it's right. Okay. Why do we use these two examples? Because we look for music to match our mood. Now, if you ever think about some time that you've been angry, right, you want something that's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I literally, when my daughter was a teenager, we made a CD and she called it Angry Music, right? What it was. It was like, I like headbang and stuff anyway. That's a whole other story. We are not Guns N' Roses, people. Okay, so not going down that rabbit hole. Anyway, point being that you're in this mood and then something here comes on, it's too discrepant. You're like, ugh, I can't, you literally can't tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But if you're angry and you listen to angry music, so you're angry, you match it with angry music, what happens? You get more angry. You get more agitated. It's the same thing if you're depressed and you listen to depressing music, you get more depressed. So what I want you to do is think in this sort of scale, right? Sort of depressed here, angry here. There's a midline, sort of neutral, 0. And what we want to do is we want to get to 0. We're not trying to go all the way to the other end because that's ridiculous. If I'm depressed, happy music is not going to make me happy.
Right.
But I can go step by step to sort of neutral. And then I can disengage from that emotion. If I'm angry, I can chill out enough that I'm neutral. I'm not necessarily going to be like, yes, and it's the best day ever, because that's too discrepant. It's too far away.
Yeah.
So I use this as an example of this is also what we're trying to do with the affirmations. We are not trying to go from here, I feel like crap, to I am Superwoman, because that's not going to work. You want to get to that neutral 0 midpoint, and then you begin building from there.
The incremental growth. What I love about that is that whole idea of just going incrementally with things makes sense with stress as well. If you go and take on, let's say, a heavy stress, with the attitude of being like, I love stress, I'm going to be so good because of this. And let's say that you put yourself into some sort of danger, you could possibly have something deleterious happen to you. Right. Because you're going into distress. You're jumping too far. And it could be done with the Think Up app. If you go too far, it won't work. And it sounds like it could happen with stress as well. So just to bring it back to the stress thing, how do we make as we're beginning to play with neuroplasticity, and the train tracks of the super highways are being rerouted, right? We're making those new neural connections. How do we actually navigate and begin to not only see things that used to be negative as a positive, but also like stay out of danger, not do something stupid.
Yeah,
because there are stressors there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things that I think of. Okay. One is you want to, this process, which I don't have a great acronym for, but it's prepare, engage, recover, and then repeat.
Prep?
It's sort of, but except...
Prayer?
It's purr. Like you want to purr, but it's purr with an E. So like that doesn't work. See what I'm saying? Right? But you want to prepare. You then want to engage in it. You want to allow yourself some rest and recovery, and then you've got to keep repeating it. Mm-hmm. And in terms of engaging, actually, someone else that you and I know in common talked about this a lot. But you really want to, at least what you're going for is a 51%. Right? You are not going for 100, because we just said, like we just proved why that's not going to make a difference, right? You want to stress yourself. It's that out of my comfort zone, but not so far down the road that I can't even see it.
Yeah.
It's got to be a stretch.
Yep.
So it's at least 51. And when I think of it, because sometimes like numbers and scales sort of work in my brain. So I'm like, yeah, you want to try something that's like between you want to start off with like a 51 to 60. And then you're going to go from like a 58 to 65. And then you're going to go from a 62 to 67. I don't even know if those are equal intervals. But you're going to, I don't care. Because you're going to, it's all made up anyway, so what does it matter? Incrementally increase, like go a little further, right? Do a little more. It's the same thing of whether it's lifting, and lifting weights, I think, is always such a good analogy because you can understand the first time, okay, like, woo, look at me, I get 20 pounds, right? But you have to keep doing it. And then you're at 25, and then 30, and then 35. So all of this works in how you manage stress. You're setting your goals. So you're doing the mindset work. That's the preparation. You're engaging in something that pushes you. You're trying it differently. You're resting, recovering, and from my perspective, most importantly, treating yourself with self-compassion. Right? You're not like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. I didn't get it right on the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Or like everybody else does this. But you do it with compassion, and then you keep repeating that. And what you find is that you get to this place of, so you said at the beginning, hey, stress doesn't really get to me. It's not that it doesn't get to me, but I manage with stress pretty well. Yeah. Which doesn't mean I'm never freaked out. Like, believe me, there are situations that freak me out. But then I know what to do. I do that breathing. If it's something I could anticipate, I've done what I can to prepare, right? I use all of these techniques that we're talking about. And then when something unexpected hits me out of the blue, really big good or really big bad, I react. And then, so here's my other thing that I say. We're humans, we're going to react, but we get to choose our response. And that's what I go back to myself in my own head all the time is I'm going to react. Like you smack my arm, I'm going to be like, ow. But then I get to choose. Do I respond by like smacking you back or do I respond by saying, hey, what was that about? Or whatever, or understanding that it was meant to be a bonding collegial thing or whatever it is. Right? I mean, the point being that I'm in charge of my response. And nobody else is.
I absolutely love this. I want to throw in a couple things. Melanie Klein, nerd alert, just wrote it. Paula, loving the science behind all of this. It looks like you may hold stock and think up or need to get some stock in it because Donneray just bought it. So thank you for that. I want to ask this as we're kind of winding down the show now, but there's still some good stuff here that I wanted to kind of reinforce here. The 51%, all of this is wonderful. It's still esoteric though. Can you give us like some concrete examples of what a 51% would be for each of us watching the show? To maybe a thing to challenge us to do that 51%, because everyone right now, and especially in the coaching world, there's a lot of coaches. It's a lot of leap of faith. That's the 100%, right? It's but you're saying that we can do the 51%. We can work on the box breathing. What does that look like now as we integrate that all together in just our behavior after the show?
Yeah. So let's say that I'm somebody who is uncomfortable reaching out to new people. Mm-hmm. Or I'm uncomfortable going into a room with people I don't know. That's actually been true in my life. Like I was the person who, if I knew people, super comfortable, and once I got in and found the people I knew, but to walk into like a cocktail party or something like that, I'm like, oh, I hated it.
I've seen you at cocktail parties. You do quite well.
But in my head, the story in my head was that I didn't know what to say. Nobody would like me. I'd feel like a jerk. That's what I told you. I was so I had a whole other perception in my head. So a 51% for me would have been, I'm going to breathe before I go in, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to tolerate the fact that I'm uncomfortable. And then ideally, I'm going to find one person to say hello to. That's it. And if I then say hello, they say hello, and I leave the room, that's fine. I did my 51. And the next time I go in, maybe I'm going to go in, say hello, and I'm going to have a couple things I might say to someone, like, hey, how's the weather? Like, seriously, I tell people this all the time, like, talk about the weather. You can do that. It's okay. Or best advice ever, ask them about them. What do you do? Then you just have to listen. Look at them, listen. It works great. Right? So my 51% the next time is going to be, I'm going to go in, I'm going to hang out there for 5 minutes. I'm going to do this incrementally. Right? So that's that example.
Yeah.
Or a friend of mine said, she's someone who's out in the entrepreneurial world, and she was just talking about this earlier today, and she was like, I had a big email list, but then I sort of had to take care of stuff, and so I haven't been doing anything for 6 or 8 months. So what do I do now? I'm like, send it. Mm-hmm. No. And she's like, but for her, that's the 51.
Yep.
It's send the email, send the first email. The thing is, so we talk a lot about this, but perfection is it's bullshit. There is no such thing. There is no perfection. And so, God, we get in our own ways all the time. So the 51% is like, give it a shot. It doesn't matter. How I learned this in my own life was through yoga. Mm-hmm. Believe me, pathetic, and I sucked. Like, that's not even being self-denigrating. Like, that's just the straight-out truth. I went, wobble,
that is
wobble,
the
wobble,
absolute
fall,
truth.
right? Wobble, 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 fall. And meanwhile, then I did the thing that people do when they start yoga. You look around, and you're like, oh, my God. They look like they're on the cover of a magazine. They're thinner than I.
Yeah.
I look like crap. And then you start thinking, who's looking at me? And we forget that nobody is looking at you because they're all so busy looking at themselves and worrying about themselves. So I found that yoga was the greatest way for me to both get in flow. Like, it required enough concentration that I really got in the flow. I had to stop criticizing so I could practice not criticizing, be in flow, be coordinating breath with movement, which got that whole calming down of the limbic system. And it was a way to see myself challenging myself. And so then I added in, every time I fall, I have succeeded at trying. Woo! Damn, way to go, girl.
Yep.
Right? So I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. You gave it a shot and you fell right on the floor. And I'd laugh because that's fabulous. Plus, laughter gives us the biggest hit of dopamine possible.
It does.
So I'm like, yeah, so I feel good. And so laughing, not meanly, not like, oh, yeah, loser, everyone's laughing at you, but like, ha, 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 look at me. Yep. The other day, someone was talking to me and they said, you're a joyologist. I thought of you right away, but then I'm like, yes, I am. I'm like totally taking that on. I am owning that. I am a joyologist because it's about embracing the experience, whatever it is.
Absolutely. I mean, it truly is. I think everyone who's doing work to improve another person is a joyologist. Even when you're doing your own work. I'm even looking at my planner right now, and I'm seeing my planner. I've got a couple questions that I always answer in it, and one of the questions that I have for myself is a neural rewiring 51% question that I think we all can take into account. And if you like this, add this to your own daily planner. But in the morning, I ask myself a few questions, and one of the questions I ask myself is, one thing I could do today that is a little, and little is underlined, outside of my comfort zone, is to try this or ask for help, which I rarely would do before. Express something, which I would rarely do. And I'm looking back at sort of the previous pages, and the little things then, or the things that seem so big then, they're like nothing now. They're nothing. And so it really is about that 1%. We don't have to smash ourselves into the to the atmosphere every time we take a big leap and declare something. We don't have to do that. We can just continue to grow on a daily basis. Yeah. I love it. I could talk to you for another 3 hours. I believe we were just in flow, because that thing just moved. That thing just moved.
I know. Fabulous.
So, Kristina, I have to give you props on this. We have we have a giveaway. We have 10 steps to being stress smart and becoming your own best friend. So there's a bit.ly link in there. Give us one. Just one. What's one step? Oh, she gave me the side eye. You gotta find out for yourself. That, or she wrote it so long ago, she forgot them all. I'm just kidding.
Hey, come on.
I'm just kidding.
There's so many more than 10, though. That's the thing.
And also, I had to bring this up. You and I are going to be in New York on the 26th of March.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking about joy, and I still can't figure out what you're going to be talking about, except something that stresses me out. Like, can you describe it?
Yeah, so definitely people will want to attend Speakers Who Dare, right? Yeah. Sway the conversation, because if you attend, you will discover what I'm talking about the same time that I do.
This is one of the most fascinating speeches I have heard. I haven't heard it. The concept of it is fabulous, and the execution of it, I can't wait to be there. I hope that some of you will go and be in the audience with us in New York City on the 26th. I can't wait to see you, Mama. It's been too long.
I am so looking forward to seeing you in real life, not just on a screen.
I know.
And seriously, that the 26 Speakers Who Dare is going to be phenomenal. Broadway performances. I mean, it's amazing. The caliber of people. There's several people that you and I know jointly. I actually know a good number of the people who are going to be speaking. And I can absolutely assure everyone this is going to be a totally rockin', amazing show. It's not just speaking. This is a show.
It's going to be an event. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah,
it's a thing. And everybody who doesn't go later on is going to be like, damn, why didn't I go? This is it's a big deal. So, I'm super psyched for it.
There's also a link there for tickets. If for those of you who are interested,
and
get your tickets.
Right? If you buy 5 tickets, there's a discount.
Absolutely. Come in a pack and heckle Kristina with me. Heckle Kristina with me. And don't heckle me because I get stressed out.
Give me a standing ovation.
Yes, give her a standing ovation. That's actually what will happen. Kristina, this is why the show's called The Golden Mic here in this final part. This is the part that I love this part of the show, and I've loved having you on, but you've said it all. You've said it all. We need to turn the mic off now. But there's one final thing, and we're going to do a visualization, if we will. And I want you to imagine that a golden mic is coming down from your ceiling right now, and it's coming to rest in front of you. And the cool thing about this golden mic is that it has the ability to translate into every language all across the world. The entire world is listening. So, Kristina Hallett, I'm going to turn on your golden mic. What is it that you have to say to the world? Your golden mic is live now.
Treat yourself with the care and compassion and love that you would treat someone that you absolutely are close to and love in the world. Allow what you say to yourself in your own head to be as loving, compassionate, and kind as the way that you would treat someone who really matters to you. Because that's what it means to be our own best friend. And when we are our own best friend, when we engage in self-compassion, in self-acceptance, and in what I call radical self-care, which is the big umbrella for the whole thing, then we are not only happier and more productive and physically healthier, but we're also able to sustain care and compassion for others even more. And so it literally makes the world a better place.
Dr. Kristina Hallett, I want you to hold that golden mic in front of you. I want you to feel that weight. Now I want you to toss that golden mic out, smash it! Smash that golden mic with stress in your heart! Kristina, you have said it all. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's been Golden Mike 122. I got one final question for all of you watching, and thank all of you for watching live or on the replay. Share this out, but the final question that I have, Kristina has it for you as well, is if you're feeling happy and you're living life to your fullest purpose today, well, what is your responsibility to change history for the better? This has been Marc Cordon and Kristina Hallett, Golden Mike 122. See you later.
Bye.
I don't know how to hang this up yet. Thanks, Kristina. I don't know how to hang. Just.